Hello, everyone. We will wait 1 or 2 more minutes for more people to come in, and then we'll officially start the webinar. Okay, I think we can start already. Hello, everyone. Welcome to EFFoST, European Federations of Food Science Technologies webinar. I am Lung, and Anna will be the moderators of this working group activities. So first of all, welcome to our webinars on the building trust in Agri-Food Data Space. We have, this is our agendas. We have short introductions, some short surveys on which type of stakeholder you are. Then we have the presentation from our two first speakers with the Q&A. We'll have a short break with the interactive Mentimeters. And then we'll do the presentation and we'll have some wrap-ups at the end. So here are some house rules for our webinars. This webinar will be recorded and archived on the EFFoST webpage. And when you are not invited, please turn off your microphone. And if you have any questions during presentation, please type them in the chat box. Our moderators, including me and Anna, will be tracking these questions for the speakers. So first of all, we would like to learn more about you. You can access here the Mentimeters, which is an application using for like a survey. You can either scan the QR code right here and you will enter directly into the presentation, our survey. Or you can also using the access code from here or from the links from here. But I think usually more convenient if you use the QR code or the access code when you enter the homepage of mentimeters.com. So I leave 1 minute and we'll start. We can enter the first questions. So I can start sharing this.
We have two respondents, but just feel free to scan the QR code with your phone or go to menti.com and put the code in so we are better informed about who is present. So the speakers could also align their talk with the audience. Thank you.
Okay, I think everyone has already replied. So we have more people mostly from academias, and we have some others. Okay, we have some more, one more, wait for one more responded. Oh, we also have a member from industry. So we have we have a small group of people right now. So I think it can be more interactive with everyone, but it's good to know that there are a variety of stakeholder groups in this meeting at the moment. So if you can also indicate your level of expertise as a junior or mid-level or seniors.
I'm also reminding that the webinar would be recorded, so you could share it with those who might be interested in following it but couldn't join right now.
What I mean by level of expertise is right here is mostly in the digital part, but also can be like in the intersections between digital and agri-food. I think we have answer from 5 out of 7. If one more minute, half a minute more, if there's some technical problem, we can move on to go along with the schedule. Yes, so we have quite senior members right here, also junior members. So yeah, we can adapt for both that can have more advanced questions, and we can have some more basic questions. Okay, I think we can move back to our main webinars.
Yep,
Yes,
I'm
Anna, please.
taking control.
Mhm.
So while digitalization of food systems is happening in front of our eyes, and there are many tools that are being invented, developed, tested, and implemented, we still see that the policy is somehow lagging. But now we have those documents, those policies that are coming to rescue and follow up and bring more structure to the use of the data and organization of working environment for digital systems also in food sector. But we still need to look more into the policy and find our ways to keep them being updated. So a little bit more about those specific documents. We have Data Government Act, which focuses on how do we create trust to share data and creating framework for data sharing. So if there is no trust, then no data would be shared and there would be no success in digital transformation. Then we have the Data Act, which focuses on who can access and use the data. And it is enabling fair data use. So data should create value for more than one actor. And it focuses on access rights, portability, and business-to-business sharing or business-to-government sharing. Then we have AI Act, which focuses on, can we trust AI systems? And it is exploring societal risk-based regulation, transparency requirements, human oversight, and documentation. So not all AI is regulated equally. There is specific risk gradation that determines a list of obligations. And for food systems, it is specific and it's different from other fields. So now when we zoom out and look into into all three documents, we see that they operate on common principles such as transparency, human oversight, and fair value sharing. But the most important thing is trust. And with this in mind, I would like to give a floor to Lance so he could introduce the speakers, because the main question, main topic for this webinar is building trust in agri-food data spaces.
So I would like to give floor to our first speaker, Anna Lamberti from Stack and Track, and her use case in RichCon Direct will which about the fresh produce supply chains. So Anna, yes, I will open the presentation for you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, perfect. Then I will take the control. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. As we heard already, the topic of the webinar is building trust in agri-food data spaces. The background that we are here as a speaker is also a bit that we are from a EU-funded project, Data for Food, where we have different case studies that deal with different aspects of data spaces and all the things that come with it. The topic of my talk now is the sovereignty, so data control and consent management. Yeah, and I will show you shortly what was in our case study important for us and how we approached it. So as Lance said, I'm coming from the fresh fruit and vegetable sector. What we think of often when we think of supply chains, we think of a quite linear connection from producer to trader to retailer to the end consumer. But what we see in reality is that it's more a complex network instead of a simple chain, because you have many producers that deliver to various retailers across Europe, and those retailers all have a dense network of distribution centers, and those distribution centers then again deliver the product to a lot of shops where we as end consumers buy the product. And in our use case, we even had a bigger picture because we also thought about the poolers of the transport packaging. So think of fruit and vegetable trays in which the products are transported. So actually, there is a lot of interaction in this food network, and every stakeholder, being it the poolers of the transport packaging, being it the producers or the retailers, of course, they are generating and consuming data about the produce, about the deliveries, etc. And also there are a lot of data sharing agreements being made because you basically have to share a certain amount of data to be able to fulfill the transactions. And those data sharing agreements are of course made between the organizations, not individual persons. So I'm not the one who makes a data sharing agreement with somebody from the customer, but that's always between the organizations. And therefore, because it's a quite complex network, data control and also consent management is really important. Because, of course, you have a lot of competition. You also have contractual reasons. So you cannot just give some data of your customer to somebody else. And of course, in any data sharing agreement, you have to be careful of that. So that means what basically happens in reality often is that you have a data sharing agreement. So in my example now, between a pooler, so an organization that provides the transport packaging to a retailer. And let's say the pooler is the data provider, so he has some kind of data that the retailer as data consumer would like to use. And they make a data sharing agreement between the two organizations on a high level. But then what happens is that at the retailer, suddenly there are a lot of end users of the data service. So let's think about an app. The data provider provides some kind of data in an app, and the data consumer has then all kind of end users who want to look at that data. And they are distributed over different locations of that organization and different people. And the data provider, because he provides the app, normally also takes care of the user management. And that is very complicated because basically an organization manages the users of another organization. So, for example, when new users enter the retailer in this example, the data provider has to create new user accounts. Or if users leave the organization or have another role or for whatever reason need to be deleted, then again, the data provider, which is a different organization, have to take care of that. And also very basic things that happen to all of us, like forget your password. Then all the end users have to go to the provider of the app and try to reset the password. So there's a lot of managing with these users. And the problem is that, they are managed by an organization which they don't belong to. So that's quite complicated. So that's the background story of the problem. And what we did in our case study, so what our approach was, that we would like that we wanted to decentralize the user management so that actually the organization which has the end users also takes care of the user management, but of course without losing data control and concept management, so that the data provider is still sure that all the end users who access the data that he provides are allowed to do so and that they are authorized. How that works on a high level is that the data provider and the data consumer agree again on a data sharing agreement. And within the data space, those data sharing agreements are in a structured and governed way. So they agree on access rights. They maybe agree on a model, so on a charge maybe for the data. And the data consumer can then manage their own end users. And the data provider does not need to know who they are. He does not need to know the identity of every single end user because he knows that within the structured framework of data sharing, these end users belong to the organization which he has the agreement with. And how that works more technically, we see on this slide. So don't be afraid, it looks a bit complex, but I will guide you through it. So on the left side, we have in our example, the retailer organization, which is the data consumer. So they want to use an app with data that the data provider, so on the right side, provides to them. And what happens is that the retailer organization is added to a list of trusted organizations that the administrator of the data provider manages. So the IT department, the admin there, they have a list of trusted organizations where they know, okay, these organizations, they are verified. We know them, they're authorized to use certain services of us. And also, of course, you could detail down what they are allowed actually to use to see whatever. On the other side, so on the left side, the data consumer organization, there the administrator in the IT department is responsible for managing the user account. So they know, okay, in our 10 shops in Germany, there are people who need to use this app. And for them, I will create user accounts. And if somebody leaves or enters new, then they will, of course, make new user accounts. But all of that is not known to the data provider. So they don't care about it because they don't have to manage it. Then what is also important, that's this gray box, is that both entities have the data space connector installed. So that's a technical component which enables you to be part of the data space. I think there are different initiatives, data space initiatives, which create such data space connectors. But in our case study, we used the one from Fireware. And for the end user, basically what they do is that they have a wallet app on their phone. So I don't know, if you use Google Wallet, then you also have a wallet app on your phone, and there are also multiple wallet apps also officially launched from the EU that you can use to do that. And with this wallet app, they receive so-called verifiable credentials. And that is something that you can imagine of like a virtual passport or employee card or ID card. And these verifiable credentials can be then used to be virtually shown towards the data provider organization. So what happens is that the end user wants to open the app on their smartphone, and then they have to authenticate themselves. And for that, they open the wallet app, show the digital, so the verifiable credentials, the digital passport, so to say. And this contains enough information from the data provider to give them access, because they know, this end user, which we don't know, belongs to a trusted organization, and its passport provides all the keys that we need to give it access. So that's a different approach to the traditional, I would say, password, email address login that we all are used to. It's more decentralized, and all the organizations that the users belong to are also actually taking care of managing them. But on the other hand, the data provider still is sure that he has data control, so that he knows exactly that people who want to access his data are allowed to do so. Yeah, that's it. I hope I was within time.
Yes. If anyone have any questions, you can always type in the Q&A. You can also asking directly by raising your hand, and I will open your mic. Yes, Anna?
So meanwhile, maybe someone else is thinking about the question. My question is quite practical. So indeed, I see that the user management is indeed a challenging task. And then by decentralizing and applying this approach, you were able to solve it. So in terms of calculations of effort, like how much time did it take you, or how many people were working on this this use case? So we could think if someone else would like to perform similar thing, similar approach, how much effort it is.
Yeah, I would say it of course always depends on which actual data service you want to integrate with this approach. So we now looked at one app, and our case study team, I think really the programming work was probably made by 2 or 3 people. Harald, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's important to understand that there is a lot of open source based software components already available for that. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So you can use existing libraries that are there, and the big advantage is also, of course, that you are not locked in then to a certain software provider. Yeah, and then, I mean, for specific questions, yeah, sometimes you then also have to integrate people from other departments. So in our case, for example, from the IT department, or from an external programmer. Yeah, it always, I think, really depends on the specific data service that you want to connect.
Yes, and I could possibly also add, it's as you said, we had several developers involved, but of course, this was also now in a very early stage of data spaces, and this is getting more and more maturity. And of course, we tried different alternatives also with the credentials and with different wallet apps and so on. There was also developed a lot in the last years and also months, and that's an ongoing process. However, that's open source, and we also have an evolution concept, so you can start with a limited amount of players, but therefore it's definitely the question how many applications and how many organizations would like to exchange data. That a little bit depends on, let's say, how large you want to set up a data space. And of course, if you want to start with an, let's say, initial application, I would say, of course, you need to have the developer of the current used application, which your system you want to make data available. And then, of course, you need to have some developer who's then installing the data space connector. And of course, the admins need to be involved to add users, doing user management. And well, then this is an overseeable effort, of course, depending always on the maturity of the latest status.
Okay, thank you very much for answering the questions and also for your presentation. And maybe we can also move now to the next speaker.
Yes. So our next speaker will be Emil Georgiev from Wageningen University, and he will present on the interoperabilities through the methodological harmonizations for the sustainability performance assessments. So I will share the Emil, would you prefer to share or share the screen, or I will share the screen from me?
If you could share the screen, please.
Yes, okay. Yes.
Thank you.
You can also take control the file if that's okay. I can also move the slide for you.
So let me see if you can move the slides. It will be
Yes.
perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well? Because sometimes I have issues with my microphone. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I
Yes,
can hear you.
we
We can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Okay. So thank you. My name is Emil Georgiev from Wageningen University. And now in my presentation, I'm going to speak about interoperability as a methodological harmonization. And I'm doing this using the Data for Food project and our case study number 6 in this project. And the purpose is to show why data exchange is not enough if meaning and methods are not aligned. So in the sustainability assessment, the challenge is not only getting data into to move between different platforms, but also the real challenge is also making sure that the data means the same thing and is interpreted the same way and can produce the same results. So in this slide, what we see on the screen, we see why this matters in the first place. So there is a growing demand for food product printing, sustainability reporting, and supply chain transparency. So while more data is being exchanged across different systems, different platforms, results could be still inconsistent and also not comparable. So two systems may analyze what appears to be the same product or the same supply chain, and still they can produce different outcomes. So that creates confusion, reduces trust, and also weakens the value of sustainability information. So this leads us to kind of common misunderstanding. And what's the common misunderstanding is that the assumption is that if systems are technically connected, data flow will flow between the two systems and they will work. But in reality, the system may connect, but the results can still be conflicting. And so interoperability in this case is not the same as integration. Technical integration may allow data exchange, but it does not guarantee consistent interpretation of our comparable outcomes. So what's the real problem under this is consistency. The real problem is data and methods inconsistency. Different product definitions, system boundaries, impact calculation methods, or different data structures leads to confusing footprinting results, reduced trust, and limited decisions based on the results that these assessments are producing. So the problem is not just whether the data is available, it is whether data is aligned well enough to support the robust decisions. So that's why we need broad understanding of interoperability. Next slide, please. So interoperability in this case is not just about API or system connections. It's also requiring shared meaning of the data, consistent interpretation across tools, semantic interoperability, meaning that system understand the exchange data in the same way, and also methodological harmonization, meaning that assumptions, rules, and calculations are aligned to make output comparable. The next slide, please. So this becomes more clear in our case study. And what we do in our case study, we combine primary data coming from suppliers, KPIs, with secondary data, such as lifecycle assessment data sets. And the challenge is to turn these two data sets into one consistent, decision-ready results. For example, for supporting sustainability intelligence. Could you please? Okay, yes. So what we mean by sustainability intelligence is turning complex sustainability data into practical science-based insights that drive measurable improvements in supply chain performance. So it's not just reporting or collecting sustainability data, but also about ensuring and also enabling smarter evidence-based decision on this data and the analysis based from the data. Next slide, please. So TSIS, what's TSIS? TSIS stands for the Sustainability Insight System developed by the Sustainability Consortium. It's a sustainability insight tool for consumer packaged goods, especially also the food supply chains. And in our case study, we apply a hybrid approach that combines supplier-specific information, primary data from TSIS, coming from TSIS, with secondary lifecycle assessment data like Agri-Balise database, the French Agri-Balise database, or lifecycle assessment-based eco-labeling. And the purpose is combining primary secondary data is to improve accuracy and scalability of the sustainability assessment of a product. So primary data plays an important role in this case because it's supply specific and operational relevant. It tells us more about what's actually happening in the supply chain. On the other side, the secondary data is coming from the databases. It contains sector averages, and this makes it more scalable, but on the other side is less product specific. So the hybrid approach in this case is we try to combine, in our case study, try to combine the best of both worlds, meaning using a secondary data digital twin baseline, and then refilling this baseline with primary data coming from suppliers in order to improve the precision of the assessment. So next slide, please. Why doing this? Why combining? I think I already kind of explained why combination of primary and secondary data is useful, because primary data is very specific, secondary covers more products and could be done at speed. So the integration allows us to fill gaps. For example, when primary data is missing for a product category assessment, so we can use secondary data to fill some gaps, to validate the estimates we produce, for example, to compare the estimates of the environmental footprint with other data sources, and also to enable actionable insights, meaning translating the hotspots, for example, of a product into practical improvements levers. Overall, this approach reduces reporting burdens, improve trust, accuracy, and makes the resulting sustainability intelligence more reliable. So next slide, please. So where interoperability breaks in this case, it breaks when supplier primary KPI data does not align with the secondary lifecycle assessment data and models, or when systems use different product categories or different calculation rules. So the results produced are inconsistent, even when the same data is used. So the important question is, how does our case study try to address this? So we try to address this in our case study through 4 elements: mapping, method harmonization, technical orchestration, and also validation. In other words, primary data must be translated into model-ready input. It should be aligned with common assumptions and methodologies, should be connected through processing data pipelines, and tested in pilots, for example. The last one is crucial, testing this with a pilot, because interoperability should not only work conceptually, it needs to work in practice. So this is what we did in our case study. We tested this in a pilot with one retailer and one eco-labeling initiative. Next slide, please. So after testing and after doing our case study, so we came at the conclusion that interoperability is not achieved only by a single tool alone, but it should be done on a system level integration. In this context, we also try to integrate our case study, the datasets, with Hestia platform, which is open source data standard for lifecycle assessment. in this case, we tried some examples with tomato data from EU Farm Accountancy Data Network. On the other side, we are aligning our case study with the Global Sustainable Transition Alliance, which is also working on harmonized greenhouse gas emissions methodologies. So these both tools or standards, HESTIA and GSTA, they're both helping aligning footprinting tools across different ecosystems. So in our case study, we validated this through the pilot we did already. I mentioned this with one retailer and the eco-label initiatives. And the methods are transferable. They support multiple ongoing integration pathways, including HESTIA and GSTA. So this is really important for the Data for Food project, because the project is not only about generating insights, but also testing how these insights can be reused across a broader ecosystem. Next slide, please. So what's the core insight from our case study? The key insights is that interoperability is really about shared understanding. It depends on shared data, structures, shared methodologies, and aligned assumptions, not just technical integration. Next slide, please. When these broader form interoperability is achieved, it creates real value, and the value in this case is it enables more comparable footprinting results, more trust, and scalable assessments. It also helps reduce reporting burdens and reuse existing data sets more effectively. Also, it helps the creation of more open data sources. And the last one is, and also everything what's on the slide is really important, because also for the food system, where it's often plenty of data in the food system, but data is not always structured and harmonized well enough for consistent cross-system use. Next slide, please. Oh no, previous, sorry, I think it's my conclusion. So the final takeaways, data sharing fails when meanings and methods of the data are not aligned. Our case study shows how to make data decision ready and comparable, and ecosystem-wide harmonization is essential for the future. So what else shall I say? Isolated solutions or different tools, platform, they are not enough if the goal is a global, scalable, credible sustainability assessment. So we have to work together in wide ecosystem to create more harmonized system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy, for your presentation on the harmonizations of the structures and the how to work on interoperabilities between the different system. I have a small questions, especially for the LCA, because it's super notorious that the LCA is really hard to fill in to find the numerous database from different countries that can deal with one type of parameters. So you think what's in your opinions that by building the similar structures through making this interoperabilities works, then we can also use it to predict certain data that are not already out there.
So I'm not sure. I know that, for example, using secondary data from eco-labeling could be very useful for working on different scenarios. For example, you are working on a product like milk or tomatoes, and then you want to play with different scenarios, sourcing regions, packaging, or something. So you can play with the different type of data and see which packaging, for example, is more environmental friendly, or sourcing region could be environmental friendly. So it could help analyzing different scenarios. And so in this case, I think it's kind of answering your question, but not really, right? So
Yes.
you're talking about predicting some impacts, right?
Yes, predicting something impacts and also like filling in the gaps, because certain data
Yeah.
we can do through the interference. We can infer from the original data from other data source.
Yeah,
And using through the interoperability framework, I think it's possible to create some data that can fill in these blanks. And I think some research they are trying to do that.
So in our case, yes, in our case, the purpose was because suppliers that are reporting primary data, they don't have all the time the information. In our case was, okay, let's use the secondary data to fill all this missing information with kind of averages. And this is the first step. And if they agree, so we use this data, but in the future, the purpose of this is also they improve in the future. They became more mature in collecting the information. So in the future, they report primary data instead using the secondary data. So that's why our digital twin models will improve and also will be fed with more data in the future coming from the primary, from the suppliers itself. So yes.
Yes. With this, we would like to move on with our third speaker, Dolores, for the EFFoData's use case. And she's from the Any Solutions. So Dolores, can you share your presentations and start?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity of being here today. So I hope you're seeing in some seconds my presentation, right? So
Yes,
first of
very
all,
well.
great. Thank you so much. I'm going to speak about our pilot, but I'm going to dedicate also the time to speak about this, the part of the governance. So because at the end, we really want to generate these frameworks for collaboration, and we are speaking about data sharing. And when we want to share something with anyone else, we really need to generate this trust and this collaboration. So we, in our use case, we started focusing the project on almonds and wine, but at the end, we have focusing it much more in the wine sector, because at the level of the Balearic Islands, although we are very small, and especially in Mallorca, we are 80 kilometers from one side to another, we have around 330 wine growers and 98 wineries. So of course, so the wine sector is quite very well regulated, and they have their appellations, so the denomination of origin and the geographical indication are protected. And this makes that the way in which they have to produce the wine, it's regulated not only for the fact of being an alcoholic drink, but also by the fact that they have to use different typologies of grapes, and especially the autochthonous grapes. So what we wanted with the pilot is to understand also which were their needs. So this was the first step. So we really need to start understanding which are the needs of the people. And they are generating a lot of data. Indeed, they have to report all this data to the public administration, but most of this data remains manual, and it's paper-based, and it's siloed. So they are gathering this data because they have to report this to the government, or they have to report it to the national ministry or wherever. So what it's important for them is that they had a lot of different Excel files, and in which they have a lot of information. This information was not structured, so they lack also about the specialized person to use these digital tools. And at the end of the day, there was this resistance to change, which is very human, but at the same time, it generates some problems when you really want to share data and to establish a data space. So at the end, what we wanted as a vision is to generate this interoperability for data sharing, automate part of the pipelines, to reduce the cost for the participants and to generate also more collaboration between the public and private sector and integrating agriculture with tourism, because at the end we are in the Balearic Islands, you know that we are a tourism destination, but we have also agriculture as a key activity, and there is a direct relation between agriculture and tourism. The first thing, if you really want to set a sound governance, is to start signing formal agreements. So at the end of the day, what we saw is that we can go there, we can visit them many times, we can explain them the project, we can explain all the benefits of data sharing, but it's important to put it also in paper. And at the end, this allows everybody to understand which are the responsibilities, the duties of each of the parts. And what we did is to sign a dedicated agreement with the denomination of origins and the geographical indication, but also we have started to sign this the same agreement with the individual wineries. This is fundamental because this is the best way to generate trust, because they see that we don't have any commercial interest behind and that we are generating something which they are part from the very beginning. Of course, you cannot go there and just to sign a paper. You really need to go there, to meet them, to explain them, to establish a lot of collaboration. When we are speaking about governance, we're here with the pictures that are people representing the Chamber of Commerce, the regional government, the university, the agri-food cooperatives, from the first and the second level. So there is a huge amount of people that we contacted, with which we had meetings and we spoke in order to generate this framework. At the end, we wanted to share something that is based, and it was explained before, based on something that is interoperable from the beginning, and that's why we are implementing our case based on fireware. Because at the end of the day, if we really want to generate this framework in which we are sharing data to the benefit of the wine sector, and this wine sector needs to be directly related to the tourism sector if they want to continue growing in terms of the number of bottles of wine that they are selling, not only at the level of the island, but also they are exporting it to other countries. They really need to understand which clients appreciate their wine, which typology of wine, if they are interested in knowing the typology of grapes that this wine is containing, how to explain better to the users where this how this wine was produced. So at the end, what we really try to work with them is to help them to understand that they really need to generate synergies with other sectors, as it is tourism. They really need to work together because they have to share data also among themselves, because they can share also the learnings of working together to learn, or for example, to avoid or to better fight against some of the illness that the grapes have. And also, we help them to understand that sharing data is very useful for everybody. So when we started with the project, the first thing that we saw is that all these wineries that are located all over the island of Mallorca were not geolocated in a single map, and in which you can use some filters to identify where these wineries were located. But also, we wanted to give them visibility to the production and the typology of grape, the typology of wine that they are producing. So those were things that are quite easy to implement for them, and it offers them a lot of information. But if you really want to have a multiplier effect, so this governance have to grow, and the governance have to grow with the public sector and have to grow also with the tourism sector. So what we try is to generate this agri-tourism business intelligence. And the first thing that we did is to show them in an easy way where are they located, and where, for example, Airbnb with a very simple scrapping in the website, where we identified that close to the winery there were a lot of Airbnb to which they could sell directly their wine. So it was very easy to make them understand that if they use data for taking decisions, if they understand the power of data, if they work with the full ecosystem, they will be able to grow as a producer, be more competitive, and to increase the selling points. And what we did also is to, you have a lot of, you are selling your wine. Most of the the people that buys the buyers of your wine are tourists, but you don't know how these tourists are appreciating your wine. If it's the first time that they have this contact with the wine, the typology of people. So what we have created for them is a QR. This QR is located in all the wineries, and you get in a very simple way. It takes 3 minutes in different languages, and you get the opinion from the winery, from each of the people that is visiting the wineries. This gives a lot of information, and we are sharing this information. And also what we generate is a kind of benchmark among the different wineries. Because at the end, what is interesting is also to understand which are the satisfaction of the people, and to include the people also on the loop. Because if you really want to generate wine that is appreciated by the clients, you really need to also know which are the preferences of the people buying your wine. At the end, we really are pushing for this fair and inclusive data economy. Of course, it helps to generate business models and valorize data and to increase profitability. But also it has a very important socioeconomic impact, because at the end we are working with local products. We are working with proximity. We are trying to reduce any climate impact and to be more sustainable. But especially we demonstrate that sound governance can support the putting in place of an important data space or in the agricultural sector in the Balearic Islands, and this generates a lot of benefits from the farmers at a very low cost. That's all from my side. If you have any question, I'm here to answer.
Thank you, Dolores, for your presentations. If anyone have your questions, you're welcome to give the input in the chat box and the Q&A. Yes, Anna?
Yes, thank you, Dolores. It was really inspiring to hear your presentation, and also to see the exact example of building trust through supporting the wineries and implementation of basically the meaning of this data submission and data sharing, how it can directly help the wineries. So now I have a question, whether you think that this type of approach could be implemented into policies, or you would rather expect for policies to bring delays or some extra paperwork. So how do you see policies catching up and supporting this building trust activities and creating this data approaches? So what is your vision?
Yes, well, at the end of the day, when you generate policies, you can generate frameworks, but at the end, trust is built on human perception. So it took us almost 1.5 years to get all the agreements to get signed. So we were checking any single word, because for them, all this related to data economy. What are you going to do with my data? Are you interested in knowing my coupage or my secret receipt of my wine or whatever? What are you going to do with my data? And we really need to have a lot of meetings with them to change the documents and so on. So if there is a policy to generate governance, it should be a policy very general, because at the end, it should be a way to push, to promote, to generate this understanding, this awareness about how important it is to collaborate, to work together, and which are going the benefits they are going to receive. Because at the end of the day, we are speaking about something in which they are not used to. So, of course, I never explain them what is a data space. So I think this is quite, I think perhaps in the future, we are trying to put the name there, but we are trying to go more with a very more in the ground examples on explaining them why sharing data from tourism and agro get a benefit from them, and then to show with the digital tools. So for me, any policy addressed to governance is the one that is going to put rules in which any single actor is not left behind. So everybody is included there. But then we have to not to forget that trust comes from the humans, and we really need to have this direct contact in order to generate this trust. Of course, in the data space, there will be some rules to work together that are going to be automatized. And this is something also very important. And perhaps here the policies needs to ensure that these machine readable rules that are going to be included in the data spaces are fair enough that everybody can feel themselves as part of the ecosystem.
Thank you, Dolores. So if I'm understanding you correctly, then those policies should create more rules for data to be like fair and protected and organized. But these policies should give flexibility to people. So the policies should be focused not on people's actions and methodologies, but on protecting the data. And if data is protected, then it's easier to build the trust. But of course, it would take time because it just takes time.
Yeah, and we have to think that we are speaking about Mallorca. It's an island, so the people used to be close than in mainland, and we're in Spain. So for sure, we are more open than, for example, in Nordic countries. So the characteristics of the people are completely different from one side to another. So for me, when you are doing policies and you are putting rules, you have to be general. So you have to generate frameworks, because then these rules have to be adapted to the reality of each territory. And I think this is the important thing, to generate rules that are able to gather all the needs and requirements of the different users from each territory and based on their characteristics. But at the same time, it offers this trust, because this is something really new. And we really need to have frameworks that ensure that the people feels comfortable when they share their data.
Thank you very much, Dolores. I think we can now go to the
Yes.
next and last speaker.
Yeah, we can go to our final speaker, Eva from EFFo, and she will present to us on the data sharing initiative, not just within the national level, but at the European level, and how these connection between different data sharing platforms between countries can create more values. So Eva, I will share the presentation from my side, and you can take the control.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, I think this works.
Good.
Hi, everybody. So as Lan just told you, I will share the perspective, a socio-technical perspective of the work we are doing with our own data sharing platform, but also going towards the Common European Agricultural Data Space, making bridges between several data sharing initiatives. But to start with, so I'm Eva, I work for EFFo. It's a Flanders Research Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food. We're located in Ghent, Belgium. And in general, the mission of EFFo is to make agriculture, fisheries and agri-food sectors more sustainable. I work in the research group focusing on data-driven innovation. And there we don't focus only on technology part, but see it as in a more systemic way. So also do research on the business governance aspects and work in a very use case driven way. And then I focus more on the socio-economical aspects and dimensions. So what about creating trust, how to develop skills and the stakeholder engagement around this data sharing. But to start with, we started our research in EFFo around 10 years ago on data sharing with questions of farmers. who were very happy with digitalization applications coming, but quickly also saw a very high administrative burden with all this. Many passwords, many questions, the same documents to be sent again and again. This shows a bit also that data only has a higher value if data can also be reused. So that is why we try to find a solution for all this IT spaghetti we say to this. And the solution for us is in Just Connect. It's a local, regional data sharing platform with the slogan Farmer and Data, so to give control to the farmer on his data. I won't go into detail too much on how it works, but so we're not we're not a database. We just ensure there is technical infrastructure and a clear governance on how data can be shared. We're not on our own in this in Europe. Dolores just presented, the 3 other cases just presented. There are many similar data sharing initiatives, all with its own ways of working, technological, but also with its own ecosystem around it, with its own governance, identification mechanisms, etc. We quickly, working on Just Connect, understood that just staying in Flanders is not enough. We need cross-border data sharing, so we started to collaborate and take contact with all these data sharing initiatives and started to trying to test things out on how we can share data across borders. And at the same time, the idea of common European data spaces came into place with the European data strategy. Because there is clearly a need to this common framework to share data. EFFo also is coordinating this Common European Agricultural Data Space deployment projects. So I will try now to give a bit our perspective, working on Just Connect, on our data sharing platform, but going towards this data space. So the objective really of the case study we had in Data for Food 2030 was to start test inter-platform bridging. It was before the seeds deployment started. So we just wanted to explore possibilities of data sharing and the different data sharing architectural patterns. And then focusing on trust, consent, governance, interoperability, and also, of course, add value creation. So how did we do this? We started really with our platform and a French data sharing platform that doesn't exist anymore at the moment, but we managed to do a first test and data exchange with them. We noticed from the start we have very similar needs for cross-border data sharing, similar use cases also, and immediately saw also this economic added value of cross-border data use cases. Then we also, at that moment, the Data Governance Act was not enrolled yet, but it was already clear that this role of data intermediary was coming up. And we also had this as research question, are we data intermediaries? How can we apply to all the criteria? And we also wanted to find that out. So to test this bridging between two data sharing platforms, we found first a real business case because this, if you have real business partners, there's real value into data sharing and everything moves a lot smoother. This business case was about sharing of machinery data. So EVR, it's a machinery producer of potato harvesting machines. They have a lot more machines, but in this case, we focus on the harvesting machines. Used by a Flemish farmer. They have machines everywhere in many countries. But this Flemish farmer had a French farm management system, My Easy Farm. But now how can machinery data from a Belgian company go to a French farm management system in an easy way? And very important first is that local companies can also work in their local environment. AVR was also already a client of us, my Easy Farm client of Ag Data Hub, so we really didn't want anything to change for them. They already know a system, they know how it works, they trust it, so they want to keep on working through that link. So there we built a bridge between these two data sharing initiatives. A year later, we also tried the same in Finland with Triton, which is the platform of Data Space Europe, a recognized, a certified data intermediary. Here, the case was a little bit different. So on the sharing of environmental footprints, we did the data sharing in both ways. So we have at one side, Klimrek, which is a Belgian LCA scan, so a tool that can calculate environmental footprints of farmers. And results of this scan then could be shared with, for example, retailers in Finland where dairy products, Belgian dairy products, are sold. But also the other way around. Eco-modules is a Finnish tool from Luke. If, for example, grain products are being sold in Belgium, a Belgian retailer needs access to this LCA results. And so there we also build a bridge between the two data sharing initiatives to share data. This bridge, in fact, this has been finalized this week. So at the moment, LCA data is being shared. What was very important in this is that we really needed to every time share a lot of information between the data sharing initiatives on how everything works in a technological way, what identification, authentication mechanisms are there, how does consent work, how are the APIs built, do they work with an API? Triton, for example, works with a specific connector. And how can we make the connection? We already saw here, we made a connection with two different initiatives, and the solutions are two times different. So I'll try to, from this experience that we had doing these three business cases, I will try to share some practice-based insights that hopefully can be a bit inspiring for what we're doing in the Common European Agricultural Data Space. So for Just Connect, what is very important is that it is very user-centered. We have built, of course, a certain infrastructure, but we are very close to our clients, so farmers, companies, and governments, and are open to adapt our services and our infrastructure, add certain features so it gets more user-friendly based on their needs. And the success of Just Connect depends greatly on the people, the team, the organization. So ELVO, Just Connect is not a company as such, it's really part of ELVO. And the commitment of the organization to develop Just Connect and sustain it. But not only the commitment of the organization, but also of certain certain partners as Flemish government who uses as preferred, as only partner to share data, of farmer unions, of the sector also, that really want this to go ahead. So the technical setup is, of course, very important to have it very secure and clear, but the governance aspect and the human support are equally important. We have a lot of human support. We do a lot of communication. So we are in fairs, we do trainings to farmers, to companies. We have a help desk by email, by phone that can be reached always during working hours. And we put a lot of effort in building and sustaining good relationships. So If we then go to building bridges from Just Connect to another data sharing initiative, what's important there is to always start from cross-border business cases, because there is really the value co-creation, which is the heart of data sharing and the data economy, and the importance of really investing in relationships between organizations and people. We put after it took maybe a long time to build this bridge, because it's only this week that the bridge really is up and running completely. But we invested a lot of time to build trust, to understand each other context, and also to find solutions in a way that we can respect the difference between platforms. If we then go to Seeds, which was not part of the case study, but we work on it. We started working on it in parallel since 1 year. Seeds is a federated system that really doesn't want to replace local initiatives, but connect them. And so needs to accommodate even more differences. If we build a bridge between two data sharing initiatives, it's already complicated, but we only have two. Now, if you go to this federated system, there is so much diversity across technologies' way of working. So there are national differences, there are this sector diversity, there's a lot of differences in maturity of the systems, and also different governance cultures. And an extra complexity is that there are many existing frameworks like the IDSA, the GAIA-X, the SSC blueprints, but that are not always adapted to the agri-food reality. But at the same time, it's expected of Seeds to align with existing frameworks. So if we take a step back and we look at this, what can we learn from our case for Seeds if we want to work on trust, consent, governance, and interoperability in this increasing complex ecosystem? We see that the scaling goes in a non-linear way. It's not something that you can just scale up easily. You need to do a lot of iterations, start again, adapt. And it's also very much a socio-technical process. Just the decision to use that everybody needs to use the same connector, for example, it's a very important decision, but this is not the only thing that matters. So there are different bottlenecks that we see. There are different organizational contexts. There are different institutional constraints. There's the reality in different member states. National legislation can be different. The contact with government can be different. The sector can be organized in another way, for example. Then the human agency is very important. We have a certain way of working, but that doesn't mean that somewhere else they work in the same way. It can also be a good way, but can also be very different. And then, of course, the technical part we cannot forget. So we propose some design principles for building this data space, and we really go from platform building to ecosystem building. Last week also the term social interoperability was launched, and this really aligns also with our conclusions based on our case study. So we really need to put users and data holders at the center if we want to do this value co-creation. Consent is not just a textbooks, but we really need to. It really needs to be a lived practice. So you need to understand what everybody means by it, and really, discuss about this with the stakeholders, how they see it. Look at federated solutions, invest in human coordination, not only in infrastructure, and then really use this local trust that exists in that local data sharing initiatives already have. So I'm at the end of my presentation. If anybody has a question, you're welcome.
Yes, Anna?
Thank you very much, Eva, for your presentation. So I've been wondering, to build trust, indeed, you went a long way, and you were communicating with different organizations, with end users, between the borders of EU. And for me, as a potential user, hypothetic user, I'm curious how this Just Connect and SEED's federated system is protected from threat, because of course with the development of digital technologies and increased interoperability between different tools and databases, there is also an increased threat of this data being hacked. And I'm wondering if someone decides, okay, I'm gonna do black vibe coding and hack into the system. So how well are these systems protected against these threats?
I'm not a cybersecurity specialist, but for Just Connect, we already have a cybersecurity layer, but we also will implement the NIS2 regulation, because we are partially related to government, so we also have to. So these are quite strict regulations. And then for SEEDs, I should involve the cybersecurity specialists to reply on that one. But I can say that everybody is very aware of this, so that there will be a high security and that will be ensured. One thing that's also important is that, for example, in Just Connect, if they hack us, we are not a database. So all the data that is being shared through Just Connect, a hacker cannot have access, and the data stays at the service of the data provider. Of course, we have some metadata. We have data on our users, on the logs, the clearinghouse keeps track on which data is being shared on what moment, who is there. So we also really want to protect that, but a hacker cannot access all the data, because I cannot even access the data.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying this and for your presentation. So I think now we can we have a little bit of time left for maybe one more question to all the speakers. And after that, we would like to introduce some follow-up initiative.
Do you see the presentation?
Yes. So for those regulatory acts that are now implemented and developed, do you see that they meet your expectations, or you have the feeling that something is missing?
I can say something about it.
Yes.
We work on this question a lot as we work on SEEDs, and I can say that we mainly miss clarifications on complex cases. We have a lot of complex cases in Agri-Food. And then also on the interaction between different laws and between different chapters within certain laws. And then maybe to add, there's also code of conduct as existing, an European code of conduct on agricultural data sharing. That also covers, for example, non-IoT data. And that's also very important for us because the Data Act only covers data of connected devices. And how then, yeah, do you see progress? Maybe I can just say that for Just Connect, so yeah, of course, we have to also implement the Data Act. And we also follow this voluntary code of conduct. But so we are trying to resolve a bit ourselves these questions on complex cases. But this we take up in Seeds in the data space because it's a bit useless to do it on our own. So we do it together, and there in Seeds there's a code of conduct that is being proposed with 12 general principles that have been agreed by everybody and by all the partners that are at the moment participating in Seeds. Based on these design principles, there will be a rule book that is made that goes much more into detail, and then there will be also model contracts developed to implement then to be so the partners, companies that want to share data through Seeds can more easily implement the Data Act. And also some complex cases will be described within the work of Seeds and examined by lawyers. So we have good examples.
We have one small questions. Maybe we can address this quickly, like from Manuel's. Thank you, Manuel. So thank you for the organization of this webinar. My question is how an organization, an SME, can be part of the SIS ecosystem. So maybe this question is toward you, Eva.
Yeah. At the moment, it's still a deployment project. So there are 8 existing use cases at the moment that we are developing. There was an open call, so some new countries are coming into the project now. But once at the end of the project, the objective is to have a working data space, an operational data space, and then the rules will be very clear on how to participate. It will be an open data space. So at the end of the project, this will become clear. The rule book that I just explained will be one of the important elements that can guide an SMEs how to join and under which conditions they can join.
Do you have an expected timeline for this yet? Like at which moment?
The project is 3 years, I think. So now we are almost a bit more than 1 year. So I'm not sure, but in less than 2 years it should be possible.
Okay. So if any organization would like to participate in the SIS, we can expect like within these 2 years we can follow. Also with the projects from the SIS.
I also can say that there's already many horizon calls. The question or the suggestion to align already with Seeds. So in many new research projects, you can also already introduce the ID and start building this link.
Yes, thank you, Eva. So maybe Anna, you can present on the next upcoming activities from the working groups.
Yes. Also, thanks to Emil for the feedback in the chat. So for the sake of time, I will not be reading it right now, but you can have a look. And now I would like to say a bit about how we can follow up on that. So as within EFFoST, we have different activities that are focused on sharing knowledge and networking and collaborating. And we have working groups focusing on sustainable food systems, health and food, and digitalization of food systems. And regarding the last one, we are launching this working group to follow up specifically on the topics that are around the digitalization of food systems, and also that includes the topic of this webinar. So if you would like to learn more about the digital food systems working group, you can make a screenshot of your screen and go to our website. But more importantly, you could scan the QR code and sign up to join the working group, so we can follow up on the activities and think of further follow-up webinars, discussions, maybe policy briefs that can be further developed to make sure that the policy is not lagging behind, and also discuss other topics around this area of expertise. And feel free also to reach out via email if you have ideas for collaboration or for upcoming webinar. So thanks to all the speakers who were attending today, and also to everyone who joined this webinar and who would also watch the recording online later.
So thank you everyone for joining in our working group webinars. The record will be shared on the EFFoST YouTube channels. And thank you so much also for the speakers and the attendees. So for now, I will close the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.